5 Toyota hybrids that almost nobody is bidding on right now will do more for your fuel bill, your knees, and your monthly budget in 2026 than anything sitting under the lights on a new car lot. And over the next half hour, I'm giving you all 5. What they actually sell for this month, what fails on them, what to check before you hand over $1, and the one 10-minute maintenance job that decides whether the most expensive part in the car lives to 250,000 miles or dies at 120,000. These are the leftovers. Discontinued nameplates, wagons nobody wanted, sedans that got replaced by something taller, a car so odd the magazines couldn't work out who it was for. That is exactly why they're cheap. Nothing on this list is unreliable. Nothing here is a project, and every one of them runs the same fundamental Toyota hybrid layout that has been in production since the Clinton administration. A planetary gear set, 2 motor generators, and no clutch pack, no torque converter, no belt to snap. I've had these systems apart. I've watched what the packs actually look like when they come out, and I've seen more of them killed by neglect than by age. That's the thread running through all 5. 2 things to hold on to while we go. Number 4 uses the identical drivetrain to one of the best-selling hybrids in America, and because the badge on the back is the wrong badge, you can buy one for several $1,000s less than the popular version with the same miles on it. And number 5, stay for number 5, was designed with the seat raised about 4 inches over a normal sedan, on purpose, because the chief engineer decided his buyers were tired of dropping down into cars. That one has been shedding value at roughly $4,500 a year since it launched. Both of those get paid off exactly where I promised them. Here's the backdrop. In 2010, sedans were about 45% of new vehicle sales in this country. By 2022, that was down around 20%, while SUVs and crossovers took more than 60% of the market. Everybody went tall. Toyota followed the money, killed the models that didn't sell, and the used market did what it always does. It priced fashion, not engineering. Which is where you come in. Because the running comparison I want you to hold across all 5 of these is simple. What the crowd wants versus what the machine actually is. Those 2 things came apart at some point in the last decade, and the gap between them is money in your pocket. A hybrid that nobody wants is not a worse hybrid. It's the same transaxle, the same inverter, the same ECVT with about 8 moving parts in it, where a conventional automatic has hundreds, wrapped in a shape that stopped being fashionable. One more thing before we start. Toyota extended its hybrid battery warranty from 8 years and 100,000 miles to 10 years from date of first use, or 150,000 miles, whichever comes first, and it applied to all model year 2020 and later hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and fuel cell vehicles. That coverage transfers to every subsequent owner. A used Toyota hybrid from 2020 or later arrives with whatever's left of the 10 years or 150,000 miles. Remember 2020. It's the single most useful number on this whole list, and it changes which model year you should be shopping in 3 of these 5 cases. Number 1, the Toyota Prius VAO, built from 2012 through 2017. This is the wagon version, and it is the least wanted Prius that Toyota ever built in America. It looks like an appliance. It has a center-mounted dash display that people either love or hate. It was killed off without ceremony, and it is, for a certain kind of buyer, the most car per dollar in this entire video. Here's what it actually is. Toyota built it with a high seating position, ample headroom, a low wide opening rear hatch, and 34.3 cubic feet of cargo space behind the rear seats that expands to 67.3 with the seat backs down. The front passenger seat folds flat so you can carry long items. The second row slides, specifically to make getting in and out easier, and it reclines up to 45 degrees. That's more cargo room than most rival wagons and more than a good many crossovers. Now put that next to what actually matters when your shoulders don't rotate like they used to. The load floor is low, so a bag of mulch or a folded walker goes in at hip height instead of chest height. The roof is about 5 inches taller than a regular Prius, so you slide across into the seat rather than dropping into a hole. And it returns around 42 miles per gallon combined doing it. Prices vary wildly by year and mileage, more than any other car here. I've seen early ones changing hands in the high single-digit thousands and clean late ones with 70,000 miles asking around 17. The spread is enormous, which means the shopping matters more than the model. And here's where I'm going to be straight with you, because this is the one on the list with a real documented weakness. The 1.8-liter 2ZR FXE engine used in the Prius V has a well-documented susceptibility to head gasket failure, typically between 130,000 and 200,000 miles, with some cases reported as early as 77,000. The early warning is a rough idle or misfire on a cold start that clears itself within 10 or 15 seconds. Repair estimates on that job run somewhere between about $2,800 and $3,800, because getting to the cylinder head on this engine takes real labor. By the way, if you drive a Toyota and want to keep it running for hundreds of thousands of miles, what you do before something breaks matters far more than most owners realize. That's why I put together the 500K Mile Car Care Bible. It covers 101 habits that can help your Toyota last longer, the warning signs you should never ignore, and how to spot mechanic upsells that quietly drain your wallet. To get your copy, just scan the QR code on screen with your phone's camera, or grab it from the first pinned comment below. Why it happens is genuinely contested, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. One camp, including shops that do nothing but hybrids, says the EGR passages clog with carbon faster than on comparable engines, and the thermal consequences land on the gasket. Another shop, working from nearly 9,000 repair orders on these cars, says their data doesn't support that. If EGR clogging were the root cause, they'd expect to see a clogged EGR system on nearly every failure, and they don't. I lean toward cleaning the EGR circuit anyway, because it's cheap insurance and it fixes misfires regardless of who's right about the gasket. But that's my read, not a settled fact. And you deserve to know which is which. So, start it cold in front of the seller. Not warm. Cold first thing in the morning. And listen to the first 15 seconds. That one test is worth more than the whole test drive. Which brings us to the polar opposite. The one that has almost nothing wrong with it, and almost nothing interesting about it either. Number 2. The Toyota Corolla Hybrid 2020 through 2022, 52 miles per gallon out of a 1.8-liter 4 and 2 electric motors, for a total of 121 horsepower. Battery covered 10 years or 150,000 miles. Hybrid drive components 8 years or 100,000. 2020 was the first year this thing was sold in the United States at all, so almost nobody knows it exists, and the ones who do think of it as a rental counter car. It is slow, genuinely slow, and it sits low, so it fails on the knees test. But if you're a low-mileage driver who wants the cheapest possible cost per mile, with a factory battery warranty still ticking, this is the answer, and it takes about a paragraph to explain. Roughly $16,000 to $20,000 gets you one. Next, notice the pattern forming. Every one of these is priced on desirability, and every one of them is engineered to the same standard as the model that outsold it. That's the whole game. From here, the cars get bigger, quieter, and more comfortable, and the discounts get larger in absolute dollars. Because the further up the price ladder you go, the more the crowd's indifference is actually worth to you. And that Venza I flagged, the one with the borrowed drivetrain, is 2 items away. Number 3, the Toyota Avalon Hybrid, 2019 through 2022. This was Toyota's flagship sedan, and it went out quietly. Production stopped in August 2022, making 2022 the last model year. Sales had been falling for a decade, though I'll flag that the exact numbers depend on who you ask. One accounting has it dropping from around 67,000 in 2015 to just over 25,000 in 2021. Another puts 2021 well under 20,000. Either way, the direction is not in dispute. What you get is the most comfortable thing on this list by a wide margin. The Hybrid uses a 2.5-liter 4 that returned 42 mpg overall in Consumer Reports testing, which is remarkable for a sedan this big. Ride comfort is excellent, plusher than most Lexus models, and the cabin is quiet and lavishly furnished, particularly in limited trim. Read that again. Plusher than most Lexus models. That's not a brochure line. That's a testing organization that buys its own cars. A big, silent, softly sprung sedan that does better than 40 miles per gallon and cost $40-something thousand new is now a low to mid $20,000 car. On a 2019, you're looking at roughly $20,000 for a clean one. On a 2021, low 20s. But here's the caveat. And it's the one that catches people who buy for comfort without buying for their body. Consumer Reports also noted that the Avalon's low stance hurts ease of access. This is the trap. Everybody assumes a big, luxurious sedan is the easy car to get out of, and it is the opposite. You sink into it, and then you have to push yourself back up and out. If you or the person you're buying for has a bad hip, a replaced knee, or a back that objects to being folded, you must sit in this car 3 separate times before you buy it. Get in, get out, get in, get out. Do it in the clothes you actually wear. And the model year cliff matters here more than anywhere. A 2019 Avalon Hybrid is on the old 8-year, 100,000-mile battery coverage, and that clock is running out right about now. A 2020 carries the 10-year, 150,000-mile term, which means a car first sold in the spring of 2020 has battery coverage into 2030 that transfers to you free. Same car, same seats, 1 model year apart. That difference is worth more than any trim level on the window sticker. You're most of the way through the list now, and the 2 that are left are the 2 I flagged at the start. Before we get to them, if this is the kind of buying advice you want more of, subscribing is the whole ask, and it takes 1 tap. Now, that borrowed drivetrain I promised you. Number 4, the Toyota Venza, 2021 through 2024. Toyota brought the Venza name back in 2021 as an upscale midsize hybrid crossover and killed it 4 model years later to make room for the Crown Signia. The RAV4 outsold it by substantial margins the entire time, which is the loop, and here's the payoff. The Venza runs the RAV4 Hybrid powertrain, a 2.5-liter 4 with electric drive, 219 horsepower combined, all-wheel drive standard. EPA combined is 39 miles per gallon, same transaxle, same battery chemistry, same 8-year hybrid component coverage, and because every Venza is a 2021 or later, the full 10-year, 150,000-mile battery term, transferable, running into 2031 on the early ones and 2034 on the last ones. And the price? A 2021 Venza LE that's stickered at $33,845 new is a $23,600 car now. And the limited that's stickered north of $41,000 sits around $26,100. You're buying a quieter, plusher riding, standard all-wheel drive version of America's default hybrid crossover and paying the unpopularity discount for the privilege. For a snowbird, for anyone on a gravel road, for anyone who's decided that all-wheel drive is now non-negotiable in February. That's the value proposition of this entire video in one sentence. Now the honest part, and it's not small. Reviewers consistently flag the Venza's visibility as poor and the back seat as cramped, and Consumer Reports found tire and engine noise pronounced and called the controls very distracting. That last one deserves a specific warning for this audience. The limited trim in particular leans hard on touch-sensitive panels instead of physical knobs. If you want a dial you can find without looking, shop the LE and XLE and let somebody else have the fancy one. The rear roofline also chops your over-the-shoulder view, so blind spot monitoring here isn't a luxury. It's the fix for a design compromise. Every Venza has its standard. Check that it works. Turn it on. Have somebody walk a car up beside you in the lot and watch the mirror light. So we've had a wagon nobody wanted, a sedan nobody noticed, a flagship they discontinued, and a crossover that got killed by its own corporate sibling. The last one is different. The last one nobody could even categorize. And it's the only car here that was explicitly, deliberately designed around the problem of getting older. Number 5. The Toyota Crown, 2023 onward. When this thing landed, the reviews were bafflement, top to bottom. One outlet called it a charming hybrid weirdo in search of an audience. Another called it big, cramped, confused, and weird. The complaint was that it tried to cover too many bases at once, and that nobody could work out who Toyota built it for or why they'd pick it over a Highlander or a Lexus ES. I can tell you exactly who it was built for, because the man who engineered it said so. The chief engineer explained that the main reason for raising the Crown's ride height was to simplify getting in and out. Toyota recognized that the target audience was a bit older and wanted a car where you neither have to drop down into it like a normal sedan, nor climb up into it like a crossover. So they settled on an unusual ride height in between. That's not marketing, that's a design brief. Toyota adapted the sheet metal around a seat height raised 4 inches, with 5.8 inches of ground clearance and a cabin that sits higher than traditional sedans. Everyone has all-wheel drive standard, and the direct competitors, the near-luxury sedans at the same price, don't offer the elevated seating position at all. Mechanically, buy the ordinary one. The XLE and Limited use a 236 horsepower 2.5-liter hybrid rated up to 41 PS combined. The Platinum's 340 horsepower hybrid max drops that to 30. The fast one costs you 11 miles per gallon, rides on bigger wheels, and gives up the whole reason you're here. Skip it. And the arithmetic that makes this the buy of the list. A 2023 Crown XLE that was a 41 to 45 car new is sitting around $26,900 in resale value now. And across the range, it's averaged about $441 a year in depreciation, more than $13,000 total in 3 years. That's my flagged fact, paid. Somebody else ate that $13,000 in exchange for being early on a car the market couldn't understand. The catch, and there is one. Headroom is compromised precisely because the seating position is high. You gained hip height and gave back some space above your hair. One reviewer described sitting in any of the 5 seats as like wearing shoes half a size too small. And the trunk is a fixed 15.2 cubic feet with no fold-down hatch flexibility. So if you haul anything bulkier than luggage, the Prius V at a quarter of the price does that job better. This car is for the person who wants an easy chair on wheels, all-wheel drive, 40 plus miles per gallon, and a factory battery warranty running into the 2030s. If that's you, nothing else on the market is quietly doing it for this money. Before the recap, one thing you should do at the dealership, regardless of which of these 5 you choose, because it costs nothing and it changes the negotiation. Ask for 2 numbers. First, the in-service date. The day the car was first sold, not the model year. That's what starts the battery clock. And on a 2020 or later car, it tells you exactly how many years of free coverage transfer to you. Second, ask for a hybrid battery state of health report. Plenty of dealers and independent shops can run a check that shows remaining capacity. And anything above roughly 70 to 75% is generally considered serviceable. If the seller won't run one, that's information too. And here's the thing to understand about that battery. Because the entire used hybrid market is priced on a fear that is mostly manufactured, somebody is going to try to take money off you using a number they know is wrong. And I want you to see the hand before it's in your pocket. At a Toyota dealership, a complete hybrid battery replacement is commonly quoted around $4,000 to $6,000 once you add battery, labor, and fees, partly because some dealerships bill 4 to 5 hours of labor, and quotes as high as $6,000 to $9,000 are not rare. Meanwhile, a remanufactured pack from a reputable independent runs roughly $2,500 to $2,500 installed, about half what a new unit costs at a dealer. That gap alone is why trade-in appraisers can knock thousands off a hybrid and watch you nod. But that's not the accusation. Here's the accusation. In June 2020, Toyota issued Technical Service Bulletin TSB 006220. It tells technicians that the hybrid battery intake filter should be inspected for debris, lint, and dust every 5,000 miles, and that the cooling system procedures should be completed every 20,000 miles. That filter sits between the cabin and the battery's cooling fan, catching dust, lint, and pet hair before it reaches the pack. Choke it, and airflow drops, battery temperatures climb, and you get one of the most preventable causes of long-term battery wear there is. I have seen blowers pulled out of these cars packed solid with dog hair. So Toyota knew. Toyota wrote it down. Toyota sent it to the shops. Now go and look at the maintenance schedule in the glove box of the car you're about to buy. On the models we've been discussing, you will look for that filter and, as far as I can find, you will not find it as a scheduled customer item. Independent shops put it plainly. Many owners have no idea the service exists because the manufacturer has not listed it as a serviceable item. There's no maintenance reminder for it. No mileage milestone triggers a notification. Owners on the forums report their manual doesn't mention it at all while their dealer quotes it at 80,000 miles, which tells you there's no consistent story being told to anybody. I want to be careful here because it varies by model and year, and I couldn't check every single manual. Some do tell you to keep the intake vent clear, but the pattern is not ambiguous. The document that says every 5,000 miles went to the technician. The book that went to you said nothing. Sit with what that costs. A filter and 10 minutes protects the one component whose failure gets quoted at $4,000 to $6,000. The schedule you were handed at delivery was built to get the car cleanly through its warranty period and not 1 mile further. And the single job that most determines whether your battery sees 250,000 miles wasn't on it. While the people who'd invoice you for the replacement had it in writing the whole time, Nobody had to conspire for that to happen. Nobody profits from teaching you the cheap fix, and everybody in the chain profits from the expensive one. So the cheap fix simply never made the trip from the service bay to your kitchen table. That's how these things actually work. It's an incentive, not a plot. Which is why you now have the advantage. You know the filter exists. You know the interval. You can look at it in the parking lot before you buy. You can have it cleaned for pocket change. And the next time somebody quotes you $5,000 for a dead pack, your first question is whether anyone ever cleaned the intake. And the answer will tell you a great deal about the person quoting. Step back for a second because there's something bigger sitting underneath all 5 of these cars. The used market does not price engineering. It prices taste. It prices what was fashionable at the moment the badge was designed, and taste moves faster than metal wears out. A planetary gear set doesn't care that wagons went out of style. An inverter doesn't know its sedan got discontinued. The Avalon didn't get worse the day Toyota stopped building it. It got cheaper, which is a completely different thing. And the only reason anyone confuses the two is that we've all been trained to read the crowd instead of the object. Learning to tell those apart is a skill, and it's one of the few that gets better with age rather than worse. You've watched enough fashions come and go to know which ones were real. You know what a well-made thing feels like in the hand. That judgment is worth actual money now, in a way it wasn't when you were 25, and buying what your friends were buying. Most people never develop it and spend their whole lives paying a premium for other people's approval. You don't have to. That's the entire argument. So the recap and then a procedure you can run on any car, not just these 5. The 5 Prius VI for maximum space and a low load floor at the lowest price, roughly $8,000 to $17,000 depending on year. Corolla Hybrid 2020 to 2022 for the cheapest cost per mile with warranty still on it, mid to high teens. Avalon Hybrid for the quietest, softest ride here, low 20s, and by 2020 or newer for the longer battery term. Venza for all-wheel drive and near luxury quiet at a discount, low to mid-20s. Crown for the easiest entry and exit of anything on this list, high 20s, and take the 2.5 liter, not the fast one. Now the procedure, 5 steps in order, and it works on any used hybrid you'll ever look at. 1. Sit in it 3 times before you drive it. In, out, in, out, in, out. If your knees complain on the 3rd one, the car is wrong, no matter how good the deal is. 2. Get the in-service date and count the remaining battery coverage. 20 and later means 10 years or 150,000 miles, and it transfers to you. 3. Ask for a battery state of health check. Above about 75%, proceed. Below 70, walk unless the price already assumes a replacement. 4. Find the battery cooling intake. On most of these, it's low down near the rear seat. And look at it. Gray and fuzzy is fine and free to fix. Packed solid tells you how the last owner treated everything else you can't see. 5. Cold start, not warm. Listen to the first 15 seconds, especially on anything with the 1.8 liter engine. Pass all 5 and negotiate. Fail step 2 or step 5, and either the price comes down by the cost of the repair, or you go, look at the next one, because there is always a next one. That's the whole tool. Write it on an index card and keep it in the glove box. Here's what it buys you, and it isn't dramatic. It's a bill that doesn't arrive. Sometime in 2029 or 2030, somebody you know is going to be standing at a service counter getting the news about a $5,000 pack. And you're going to be at home in a car you paid $20-something thousand for. that's still doing 41 miles per gallon, with a filter that gets tapped out every couple of oil changes and a warranty that hasn't expired yet. Nothing happens. That's the payoff. Nothing happens for years, and it costs you almost nothing to make that true. Now I want to hear from you, and specifically from the people who've actually lived with one of these. If you own or owned a Prius V, an Avalon Hybrid, a Venza, a Corolla Hybrid, or a Crown, tell me the mileage, and tell me what it cost you. Not what you think of the styling. What broke, when, and what the bill was. I'd particularly like to hear from anyone who's put a Prius V past 200,000 miles, because the head gasket question is one where the shop data and the owner experience don't line up cleanly, and every real number helps. And if you've had a hybrid battery replaced, say where you had it done, and what the warranty on the new pack actually was, because those terms are all over the map, and I still don't have a good picture of it. I read the replies, every one, usually late, usually with the shop light still on, and the corrections are the most useful thing that shows up in there. If this was worth your time, subscribe, because I keep pulling threads like the one in the middle of this video, and I'm not finished with that one. There's a whole question I stepped over today about what actually happens inside a remanufactured pack, whether you're getting new cells or somebody else's used ones with a fresh sticker. And the more quotes I look at, the less those two things seem to cost differently. I want to get to the bottom of that before I say anything definitive about it. Until then, go sit in the one nobody's bidding on. Check the filter, and let the fashionable crowd pay the premium for you.